It pays the most, but I actually have a portfolio across the country for a gentleman who owns it all privately, and I'm his personal slave. So I'm currently working on my exit plan. Nobody knows, and so part of what I'm doing is I just started a photography business. I work a lot with the schools. Is kind of where I've started, and do fundraising and stuff for them. And then I also probably going to start my own facility and property support.
Right, if you haven't switched over
services where I can
give them an idea of what you're working on.
That's another exit for my exit. And then I also, for you, I'm going to the social work program. So I'm very, very busy right now, and so I will not be having vacation this summer. I'm also a single mom. I have two boys, and they are 11 and 15, and they're fabulous. So anyway, I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
This is the meet and greet. I'm Bill Josman. Right now I'm an independent consultant, which means I do a lot of different things. But let's see. Yeah, no vacation for Bill this summer. I think the worst job I ever had was working for a national computer training company. They've got offices here, and I actually did learn a lot there, because when I wasn't teaching, I was learning. I could take all the courses for free, but the company was sales driven, and the instructors were the low man on the totem pole, and whatever the sales staff told, they had these really rah-rah meetings early in the morning, you know, and they'd cheer and all this stuff, and they were all these 20-year-old kids driving these really nice cars, and then they'd come over and tell you what you were going to be teaching, and to whom, and what they'd promised, and it was, and then the resources were out of date. They weren't keeping up with
Right, get 30 seconds to wrap up what you're doing, and then we'll be moving on to the last person.
Material that teachers were supposed to provide. So it made teaching the most thankless job I've ever had. And what I hope to gain from this workshop, are we doing that, or is that not covered? Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested in big data because I was involved in a couple of startup activities out in the Bay Area, and education is probably one of my long suits. And it took place in a startup weekend where our project was an educational analytics project. So that's why I'm.
30 seconds.
Did you show why you're here? Yeah, working with this startup company. They're a social network.
Right, so the table in the back, they said that they all love their jobs. And some people had to communicate. It should have been the worst job you've ever had in your life. So for instance, the very first job I ever had, I was employed by my dad to dig a 200-foot trench in Arizona clay, and it was 2.5 feet deep. The time I was 14 years old. When I finished that job, I had the back of a longshoreman, and I had blisters on blisters that turned into these deep, rough pads. I didn't even have calluses anymore, I just had pads for hands. And I got paid exactly 25 cents a foot. So I think that by far was the worst job I've ever had in my life. It taught me some great lessons, like I hate my dad. No, I guess it didn't teach me very many lessons, but and I didn't stop hating him afterwards. And for a living, what I've been doing is recently I had a startup that I exited last year. I took on a survey and analytics company that was spinning out some technology from the University of Utah. It turns out that was actually an unintentional nonprofit. So we decided to sell the technology to people who could actually make use of it. kind of winding down, and I've been just doing freelance consulting for a little bit with some of my friends. Now, folks, by a raise of hands, when we talk about big data, which is a term that I love, how many of you are here because of the data aspect more than the analytics aspect of what we're going to talk about? And then I'll ask the reverse question. So by raise of hands, how many are here curious about data in general or your data sets? Okay, so how many are here because of kind of the more advanced analytics aspects, taking some of the data that you already have on hand and maybe making better use of it? Okay, so that's more than the majority. And those who didn't raise your hand, I don't care why you're here. No. Those who did raise their hand, hopefully there's still something valuable you can get out of what we're going to do, but we are going to be focusing primarily on how you can uncover data that you have probably on tap that's yours and at your disposal, and how you might be able to leverage that to get key insights on very relevant business processes. So this is going to be somewhat of a difficult task. I hope it's relatively pleasant, but arduous. And if we're moving too slow, you guys just kind of glaze over and I'll move faster. But we're going to get through pretty much the entirety of the material. And so hopefully it will be valuable, if not totally enjoyable. So, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. So this is our team here. You can see in the red circles, Alvin and I, we were on the team who won those salt training competition. Ben Taylor and Ben Peters and Ben's. They were the ones that won the health equity competition. And Mike and Kent are friends of ours that are working with us on, I'm not even going to call it a project. It's a fun idea, exhibit, and we'll see where it goes. Developing and kind of productizing some of what we were able to do.
I'll do this. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry, I'm going to he's not one of those guys.
Yeah. Keep moving Travis' computer. So the agenda, as we kind of discussed, there we go. Like I said, we want to focus on how you can compete. So this is not a gee whiz workshop. I'm not here to wow you with dropping names like, I don't know, big name companies or even cool technologies. Right? So this is about how you and your company can better compete with analytics. And finding out specifically, very concretely, where you can spin up a proof of concept, leveraging either the data you have on hand, maybe a little extra data, and some analytics to maybe derive some real business value. After that, you should be able to hand that off afterwards to, hopefully you have a technological counterpart, you, yourself, or somebody else who will be with us in the latter half of the day. And you'll be able to take the learning from this sessions and actually spin something up, hopefully useful and valuable. And we'll wrap up. And then the kind folks at Ampian and Allegiance have both they're providing some lunch for us, so you'll have lunch afterwards.
Down button.
Down button. That's what I did. Okay. So like I said, we're going to focus on business value. I'm not going to try and wow you with cool terms. We're going to try and narrow this down as specific as possible into one or two key concepts that you can take back to your business. How you can actually get started, and the kind of problem statement that motivates somebody like me to want to solve your problem, or somebody even much, much smarter than me, is a very well-formed type problem statement. There is nothing that turns out to work more than an open-ended, I don't know what you could do, just do something magical. To give some color to that argument, we only had 2 teams submit to Skullcandy, because Skullcandy's problem statement wasn't. It was this open-ended, like, please help us. Now, Alton and I, and the 2 Bens, we already kind of colluded and said, we're going to go after data first, see what we can find. The teams that naturally kind of evolve to have the better data sets, so they're just going to be the teams and then try and win. So Alton and I actually had a lot more fun finding data for Skullcandy than the Bens did, so that's how that panned out. Health Equity, I think, had an upwards of 10 or 11 teams compete. because they had a very narrow, tight problem statement that they could easily sink their teeth into. And you're going to find this over and over again in technology. Business fails to communicate very clearly with IT really concrete problems. And when the situation is reversed, business is just as upset or frustrated as IT often. Think about when IT gives you back, how long is this going to take? And they say, between 1 week and 7 months. Right? That kind of open-ended answer is really infuriating, right? And that's a lot of times what we hear from the other side. What do you want? Something between a really rudimentary tool and something that can compete with Google. Like, great. I'll go with you. And then I'm going to help you collaborate. So we're not going to be focusing again on much like what's the latest hotness or anything like that. All right, you're in charge. I can't press it down.
What?
Oh, it's not just me. Good.
No. It's Windows, right? Isn't Windows? Okay.
Okay, so when you look at this slide here, we're just going to glaze over this. You'll have these slides. What I want to impart to you, and these are smart folks that have important areas, there's a book called Competing on Analytics. We all use data in our daily jobs, I would hope. Most of us do, whether it's manifest, whether it's just some code that came from finance, something that we pulled out of QuickBooks. We all use data, and a lot of us are very keyed on specific numbers. When you get up above this line, you're actually caring enough about the data to make and derive different decisions based on what you're seeing. And so you have statistical analysis, which is, I think most of you, if you did any business or college, you probably had to take some terrible class on statistics. And forecasting, extrapolation, QuickBooks gives that to you almost by default. Finance should give that to you almost by default. Anybody who has a plan for it. Predictive modeling, the only real primary difference between predictive modeling and statistics, statistics endeavors to tell you how something happened, right? They're trying to give you causality. Predictive analytics is fundamentally utilitarian. It just wants to tell you what happened and what evidence do you have that this instance might be just like another instance. There's no p-value, there's no concept of, hey, we're really, we think with, I don't know, umpteen degrees of confidence that this is what's going to happen. It really is just, this looks a lot like something that happened in the past. By extension, statistics, you can get away with maybe 20 data points. You need a little over twice that to get away with the same thing in predictive analytics, about 50. When we work with Skullcandy, because it was such a loosely formed problem statement, we actually didn't get very far down what I call this data product funnel. So the analytics portion, we really just surfaced data that we collected from social media, summarized it in some key visualizations, gave it a whole smattering of competitors that they could look at. Didn't do any forecasting. This is actually just historicals. I mean, we did calculate some confidence intervals, but that's relatively rudimentary and not terribly informative. But that's what happens. What I want to say is you actually have to pay the piper. As you're moving up that trajectory to derive a more competitive value out of your data, you usually have to pay the piper of statistical analysis in some form. You have to pay the piper of forecasting in some form before you can do predictive analysis, and then before you can get to optimization, all those others have to have been kind of locked in. So it's important that you don't think of doing predictive or advanced analytics on your business. That's too big a scope. That's too impossible a problem. Not even Google does that. Google focuses most of their attention on their key business value, which is search. All right.
So I'm Ken White. I do this, and most of my work is done in strategy as well as in sales. And if you look at this chart here, I'm curious if you get into your industry where you see yourself, what are meetings. The fact that you know your customers so well, like endorsements made, right? That you can get stuff from point A to point B, like a Walmart made, or is it Amazon constantly innovating on their products, constantly getting into new spaces while they maintain their core competencies, right? And their sales for retail. So the reason why I bring that point up is all of us want to know a lot about our business, but there's always too much data to gather to know very much at all, right? So you have to refine your problem question like David was. So where's your bottleneck in your business, or what's the problem that you see affecting you the most in your business right now? Is it that you don't know who your potential customers are, what they want? Is it a problem of attracting people to your product? Is it a problem of converting people? Or is it a problem of servicing and retaining those people? So is it a fulfillment issue, right? So based on that, where are you strongest? Where do you feel you can grow? And where are you weakest? What do you want to know more about? So I think that if we jump onto our handout, there's the type of business problem your company might benefit from better data and analytics. I want you to just pick one. There's plenty to be learned in all spaces, but if we're going to get through this exercise, we need you to pick one and see how deep we can go. So take some time to do that. Got some, and then just write down on that paper some details about that problem.
So again, while you're thinking of that, if you're a product-focused company, you don't necessarily need to focus on the product and marketing side. That may be where you feel like you get the most value, but maybe you feel like you have a bottleneck of increasing with customers or suppliers. So you pick. I prefer that you pick one. We're going to drill down deeper into that element of your business. And then when you write on paper a couple questions about that area that you'd like. So a question could be, who are your potential customers? Do you know who they are? Would you know segments? Would you like to know clusters? Would you like to know personas? If you're running primarily manufacturing type of this, maybe you want to know better yields. Maybe you want to know failure rates. Maybe you want to know when a server is going to come out because you're running a data center. So that's the kind of exercise that you can do. And so, yeah, another minute or so to work on that.
You need a pen.
Anybody else? Everybody else here?
If you have a question and you want me to walk you through this a little bit more, raise your hand. Happy to help you find it.
What's this?
You can get the story.
Yeah. All right, about another minute.
Does anyone else need a pen? Just do the full question. Is it if you've had a chance to define your problem, would any of you mind sharing where you're looking?
we're ready to figure out which market should do, go back over doing genetic research, so we don't know which target. Big laboratories or construction.
Cool. So
So the question was that their response was for the tape. So they're a brand new startup doing genetic type products, and they're trying to figure out exactly which customer segment they should go after to nail down. Do they go after the customer, the doctors, big pharma, that kind of thing. Is that right?
So who are your potential customers? That's kind of the question you still on.
Cost structure. First off, the company, we have a large piece of software. We know how much it costs us to develop that. But each of the components internal to that, we're just guessing. Like to know how much each piece.
So it's a logistical issue for you. If you're not sure how to roll that or prioritization, maybe.
Yeah.
It's an operations issue.
Even attribution of costs, right? You can break it down.
Great, that's good.
Education market, digitization of textbooks, and sensor implementers in textbooks to be able to provide feedback to different customer sets, textbook manufacturers, teachers, administrators, parents, students. So I guess the question is how to prioritize the customers.
Do you feel it's marketing or a question, or is it a sales question?
I think it's a little of both, really. It depends on.
So do you find hard time converting that for tracking?
A lot of agonizing over who the customers are and what market it is. And really, the only sell is to the big three publishers. That's
So we have a sales question for you. It's a hard question to just, whenever you open up one box, you open up every other box in your life. We're trying to constrain this so that we can be hard. You can do the same exercise at the other box. Great, thank you. Nice to
Revisit this.
We'll be working through this.
And so to use an example of how you can take this information and kind of run with it, right? Unpackage your business, unbundle it into its components. Big proponent of the lean business model generation. Right? So this is lean startup, someone with MBAs or business school. Probably haven't been exposed much to it. Anybody who's done any startup work might have some notion of what this is. The idea is, can we put a portion of your business, the product side, customer side, or the operation side, and flow it through a standard business process? And so that's what the map is, where you have your, talk about everything on the other disconnect, cost structure up, or primarily cost structure related activities or resources that you use to provide a value proposition that you're bringing to the market. And everything over here, ideally, is supporting the revenue model. So if we talk about, hopefully, the quintessential analytic company, Google, right? They actually use revenue, a ton of their revenue comes through their keyword options. That's what they do for a living, is they sell keywords, right? And they have a marketplace, so it's a really prolific kind of thing because it's got some vibrancy to it. People are competing. And the people that they're trying to serve primarily, right, think of the web surfers, right? That's who we think of, because that's what we use. But they've also got content creators that want to be noticed for what they've created, whether you're trying to sell something or just notice. And you have advertisers who are probably situated somewhere, either directly in the search, if you're familiar with, or on the page of content providers who are hoping that potential customers will follow those links and buy their stuff. And so they actually run a revenue structure on giving most people search and a place to promote content. And they charge advertisers by and large. So this is kind of interesting, right? Their key resource, the thing that drives all of this is their search platform. There's other elements to it, right? They have to run a back-end data center and a whole other. But if we concentrate on these parts, it really is their search platform they're leveraging. Then you can see other elements of what they're doing, but really you can just focus on kind of this section right here. We can unpackage this part and look and find opportunities to use analytics to drive in the business. So when we unpack it a little further and get into the customer segment, here's us, the happy web server, right? And what Google has provided for us is there's just too many things on the internet, and I can't find what I want or what's relevant. And so by giving us a payment, a simple UI, remember Yahoo with a gajillion links everywhere, the portals. We're all old enough to remember portals. And now Google has added a single box. Type your problem here. Talk about a pain relief. Like, I remember the first time moving over to, actually it was Alta Vista, simplified UI, and I was like, what's going on here? Just to crawl the web, right? I actually went to college, 99, right? So yeah, I'm old enough to remember crawling the web, sending a request with the crawler and coming back and getting an email 15 minutes later that I had my results sent. And in the meantime, all the links, and I could go anywhere on the web to do a variety of different distracting things. And here's Alta Vista with a simple search box, and then Google, even simpler, nothing else on the page. So it really relieved that pain. What that also availed them is the ability to actually really isolate the user experience and track exactly what you were doing, right, with a very narrow concept. So they were able to create personalized information, target that, and I pointed out finding stuff. By unpacking this way, we actually get to a very concrete concept of how we might be able to leverage advanced analytics to drive improvement. By surfacing information for